in Xavier's, trying to find out. So I had a passion for consumer understanding, hence advertising. And one quality I think that stood out for me is that I always ask the right questions, and I think that's very important when you progress in machine learning, when you have algorithms that do all sorts of fancy things for you. But what often is essential and will remain at the core of every business is people who actually ask the right questions. Because if you are able to do that and if you are able to bring that right mindset to the table, I don't think there's any algorithm that will ever replace your thought process, right? So coming from that perspective, I think the topic I'm going to cover today is how the science of machine learning is changing the art of media. And so a lot of the talks that I've given, people have told me that, Abhinay, you're very, we call it like a 5-minute lesson into history. I like telling a lot of stories, that's the art of media, so that's what I'm going to do. So it's not going to be a very technical thing, feel free to ask questions as and when you guys want to. So I'm going to take you through the story of what I'm going to cover today, and then I'm going to show you some things that I've developed personally as well as some of the things that my team works on at Desai Network. Desai Network is the second largest advertising group in the country. So we're dabbling with data and we've done some cool stuff. But I'll just show you what I'm going to do. So just see if this is working. Okay. So yeah, so brief introduction about myself. I studied at Cathedral and John College School. I then went on to St. Xavier's College to do a BA in economics. I did a master's in economics from Warwick, and now I'm senior manager data sciences at Desai Network. I also have an organization that is the apex body for kindness in India, and kindness is something that is really close to me. So we founded this college when we founded this institution when I was in college. So yeah, that's a bit about me. How many of you know who these two gentlemen are?
Yeah.
Sorry? Okay, so no right or wrong answer, but this guy is Phil Knight, that is Bill Barman, and what these two gentlemen did is they were actually pioneers in reselling shoes, and they started off in the US, in Oregon State, to be resellers for Asics, which was a Japanese shoe making company. And what they did is that they were the first people to actually make the distribution of running shoes in the US. And later on see who these two gentlemen really are. In the first year, when they started out, they were field experts, right, in terms of running and athletics. Phil was an athlete and Bill was his coach. And the only thing they knew at that point, if they had to sell shoes, was to go and talk to athletes. That's the only data point they had. So what they did is they went to the Oregon State track and field stadium, and they actually started talking to athletes about shoes and how the right grooves and the right shoes would sort of mean a lot to them and make them run faster, run better. And they actually made $8,000 in their first year for Asics, becoming one of the largest redistributors for Asics. They later on went on to found this company, Nike. So that's the data that they really had, right, at that point. I'm going to fast forward to 2018, where you have a lot of technology suddenly at your hand. You have compute, of course, becoming very, very cheap, very affordable. A lot of people are into open source, and largely because of these four key players that have actually driven the ecosystem. Google is actually very heavily invested in them, and actually one more logo that's missing is Facebook, but they don't have a cloud architecture, which is why I haven't actually put that out. But Google and Facebook spend about easily $1 billion a year into teams that are just focusing on experts in data and actually just getting people more aware with open source programming. What I love about this slide and the next slide is that it's actually going to tell you what was in 1960 and then what is it in 2018. 1960, sorry, to put things in context, is actually when Nike was just starting out with sales, and 2018 is of course now, and I'm going to tell you what are the things that they had at their time and what are the things that they have now at their disposal. So this was the computer that actually powered Apollo 11, that actually went on to land the first craft onto the moon. And this is where we are in 2018, where you have processors that are way more powerful, way more computationally intensive to actually do a lot. I mean, you have more power in this phone than they had in 1960 when they actually went to launch that craft into the moon. Population explosion on the internet. So if I were to look at 1960 and compare the internet population then, there were about 16 million people, which is slightly less than the population of Mumbai. And in 2018, you have about 20,000 times that number, which is now the population of Asia. And there's a lot of data that is generated all the time, right? So if I were to just look at 1960, all the data that was there from the start of time to 1960 can actually fit in 10 of these, right? 1.4 MB floppies. Today I can actually store all of this in 7,000 of these. So that's just the scale of which data is sort of exploding. And in the last 5 years, what's actually quite interesting is that more than 90% of the data that ever exists now was actually created in the last 5 years. So that's just putting things into perspective with the massive amounts of data that is there. And then you have the entire infrastructure powered by Google, powered by Facebook, that is actually warehousing and storing all of this data. And then you have experts who are analyzing this data to find out what people like, what people should sort of, who people really are. And that's at the core of what Facebook and Google is, right? So that's where AI and ML play a very big role. So just the other day I was actually looking at plans on Hotstar, and I was actually looking at maybe subscribing to Hotstar. I had a Netflix account, so I was just looking at Hotstar for competition. And the minute I shut that tab, and actually TechCrunch is one of the sources of a lot of my knowledge, I actually went to read up there, and I found that I was targeted by Hotstar. What's interesting is that I just had one micro interaction with Hotstar. I just went onto their site. But Hotstar and Google actually figured out that I would have had an affinity for Hotstar. And they do this at scale for tons of customers, looking at tons of interactions and how everyone is actually responding. So for example, her interest in cricket might be different from my interest in cricket, or ma'am would like shopping, but I would be disinterested in shopping. And all of this is happening basis everything, every content piece that I'm reading online, every article that I'm spending time on, every ad that I'm interacting with, all of this is actually processed by AI and ML at scale to sort of say that this is a person who's in 15 to 30 years in Bombay who's actually interested in online streaming, whereas this is a person who's actually interested in shopping, and then the communication to each one of them will be very different. So that's AI and ML really at work there. So what really is machine learning? Basically, it's, to put it very simply, it's me giving data to a computer and letting the computer learn on its own through observing patterns in data and then making these hypotheses. So taking back to the advertising example that I was using, it's basically when I was interacting with Hotstar, I was giving machine some data. The machine would have already had several rows of data that is analyzed of people who are actually interested in Hotstar, and then went and finally signed out the Hotstar to know what a person who might be interested in Hotstar would look like. So that is actually machine learning. The machine has learned that a person like Abhinay, who is exhibiting similar interactions with someone who is actually interested in online streaming, is actually going to probably subscribe to my platform. So I will constantly have the Hotstar ads wherever I go on to refresh my cookies, so Google doesn't know me anymore. So that's actually the power of ML, right, in advertising. Now when you have Bill Barman and Phil coming up and let's say they're selling Nike, right, they're actually giving users the chance to customize their shoes. So now, instead of going to that track and field stadium to make their sale, they're actually learning from billions of interactions from people all over the world about what type of shoe I want, what fit of shoe interests me, whether they should make more of women's shoes or should they make more of men's footwear. Should they really still continuing to sell shoes, or should they look at maybe track pants and stuff like that? And that is happening because you have smart, intelligent algorithms that are actually working, actually looking at every interaction and changing the way we just tell a story right now. So something very cool about Nike is that if you had gone in Facebook newsfeed after looking at that ad, Nike actually puts it as your style, your way. So it's actually making this communication more personalized. It's saying that, hey, Abhinay, billions of people who are interested in shoes and might maybe pick a Nike or an Adidas, but you tell me what sort of shoe you would like to wear and let me sell you that shoe. And that's the power of AI and ML at scale. And I just have one last demo that I want to take you guys through. So this is the team that I work in, and we have about 7 people in our team. I'm not going to say we're the best guys in AI and ML in the country, because that will absolutely be false, because you have teams in Google, Amazon and Facebook sitting in the same place. But what we believe is something very, very core to what we do is we like asking the right questions, and we see what is it that will actually truly add value to the processes that we build in and the intelligence with which we present communication. And that's the core of this team. I'm just going to jump out of this, and I'm going to take you through a live demo. Okay, so for some reason that is not holding up, but I'm going to tell you very quickly about what this tool is, and I can actually maybe show you how it looks. Yeah. So what we've done in our team is that we want to make communication more personalized, right? I mean, the idea of marketing is no longer showing an ad on TV or putting up hoardings. You really got to connect with the consumer. And what AI and ML actually let us do is it lets us tell individual personalized stories at scale. So what we did very quickly is, I mean, Google and Amazon is what we work with in the US, but in India we work a lot with Facebook. So all of this is what we've developed with, and this is riding on the technologies on the intelligence that Facebook and Google have right now. And we've created something called a single source formula. So very simply put, I mean, because there's no internet connection, I can show you a demo, none of it though, is that it actually asks me what platform I need to advertise on, what my brief should be. It will let me put my landing page URL, so I can actually just go up to Nike and put their URL out here, which will tell the tool what sort of audience you should target. So whether it is an 18 to 24 male, whether it is an 18 to 34 female, or both in Bombay, in India, interested in footwear. And what it's actually going to do is that this is going to very quickly chalk up and tell me that, you know what, you actually punched in an audience that was interested in footwear. I'm going to tell you that this audience is not only interested in Nike and Adidas, but he actually is also interested in, let's say, cycling. So maybe you want to make your communication more personalized and have content around cycling and stuff like that. And I can just actually activate this plan. And what's really cool is that earlier, if you had to have a digital team make out a media plan, they'd actually take close to a day and a half to respond to a particular brief from the client. This can actually do it in 10 minutes. So that's where we are right now. And yep, I hope you guys like what I had to show.
Do we still get to see the demo?
Actually, if I can connect to internet, I'd be happy to do that.
I can connect my GS working with it.
Yep. Okay, I don't think the internet thing is working. But it's okay. So basically, I mean, you give it a brief, like I said, and then it just churns out that plan that I showed you guys. So yeah. Any questions, guys? I promise to keep this short. Sure.
What kind of software do you use for your
So in terms of coding on a wow, this one. In terms of coding, I mean, we're agnostic actually, but I personally do a lot of my work on R, but I have experts in my team who are looking at Python. But largely those two. Python I think is more robust. Okay, it's painfully slow, right? Cool. Yeah.
You said that if you visit a web page and then you got back to Facebook and you recently saw an ad pop up.
Yeah.
Right. But do companies also perform this analysis where they see how useful that is? I mean, I never see those ads, and I know most people don't.
Okay.
So, how useful those ads actually are? Is there some analysis?
So before you actually see that ad, Facebook has an ML that runs in the back end to sort of identify whether you are the right person for them to show you that ad in the first place. And what we've developed on top of that is to analyze whether Facebook is actually making the right decision in showing you that ad or not. So you would have seen when I showed you the planner that it would have suddenly thrown a lot of interest, right? And those interests are targeted on Facebook. So what I'm telling Facebook is that a person who's interested in shoes would also be interested in cycling and marketing and whatever. So I push that information onto Facebook. And if you happen to be interested in cycling, you will see that particular communication. Now let's say for example you're the audience that the ad is just not working for you and you're keeping that ad. What we've developed is that we know which interests are actually leading to conversion, which means that you would have clicked on that ad or not. And we are able to very quickly tell you that these are the interests that are working and these are not. So maybe audiences like you who are actually interested in cycling but just do not want to look at the running shoes. So we have an ML that will constantly remove interests that are not performing and then replace it with ones that I think are better.
So what I'm interested to know is how do you sort of gauge the success of an ad by number of clicks that people have on it?
So every campaign usually has an objective. So let's say clicks is just an objective of the ad, then yes, then I'll be looking at clicks as an objective and then I'll see that you are fitting in the bucket of persons saw the ad and clicked on it. But let's say if my objective was sign up, and you clicked on the ad but didn't sign up, then you are not interested and you are not working for me as an interest. So that is what we really reevaluate in many cases. Sure.
So you were talking about objectives of different campaigns. So what are the other objectives? So not every objective is even results in conversion. Is that the idea?
So conversion is actually your goal, and your campaign goal might be to click, to sign up, to just look at the brand. So you have normally in marketing, an advertiser would ideally want to build brand awareness, or you want people to make a purchase, which is something that we call direct response. And direct response could be, let's say, a website click, or a form fill, or a lead generation, or something like that. So those are objectives that are defined by the marketing teams, and then we have an ML that will sort of optimize for that. Yeah.
So if a company has the marketing objective of brand awareness and they have adverts and banner ads, how do you assess whether it's successful or not? Because most people tend to ignore these ads and look at whatever they're actually going for. So what is the measure for?
So if you're just looking at awareness, right, you just want a lot of people to see it. So with every banner ad that is flashed on your screen, Google and Facebook have a metric of impressions. So that is an impression served, and that's what you sort of look at to evaluate this campaign for a brand awareness campaign. So what's actually quite cool is, so we have attribution that we do on digital as well. So now let's say that you're an advertiser that is looking at Facebook, Google, and within Google you're looking at their display network. You guys are aware of their ecosystem, right? But so very broadly putting, Google has a partnership with several publishers like Scoop and stuff like that. So that forms their display network. Now your ad could actually be served anywhere, right? That's what programmatic is all about. But you often don't know which you're paying for serving those ads, but you don't know which site is actually giving you a good response or not. So what we've developed is we run this thing called the Markov chain that actually looks at every user interaction of every user journey and identifies for your objective which of those channels are actually leading to that. And we do something called the removal effect. So the Markov chain is all about removing. So let's say if a person saw an ad on Facebook, saw an ad on Google, then went on to YouTube and then went on to my site. Or if I remove YouTube from their journey, would that person still have gone onto my site? So that's what we sort of look at, and then tell you that, you know, you had 100 rupees that you spent in this particular way, you might want to redistribute it like that. So either the talk was really bad or really good.
A general question. What is the response of YouTube video ads? Do you work, analyze those as well? Because those are a lot of them are very interesting.
So a lot of people actually mistake success of campaigns just being where am I placing my ad. But like I began, right? The conversation or what media really is all about is the art of storytelling. So it's not only where you're placing the ad, but that ad is going to connect with my consumer, and the ad is going to tell a story that will actually strike a chord in the heart of my consumer. And ML and AI is just going to help me understand better to reach that right person and probably identify the theme. But it's not about which platform I'm targeting as much as it is what sort of story is going on there. Of course, platform is important. For example, if I'm targeting a young audience, then I would probably not spend that much on television, but I would rather focus more on mobile phone or something like that, right?
What is the cost of an advertisement?
So that's a good question actually. So I mean, TV is very expensive, and the goal of advertising on TV is that it thrives on spillage, so it doesn't mind having waste. Google and YouTube, I mean, so with the efficiency we built, I can actually serve a person an ad for under $1. Not much. But here the game is all about scale.
All these things, I mean, these things were very sorted. Like you are able to identify a customer and then you are showing them the ads and you know how to see if the ad is successful or not. What are the kind of challenges that you face? Like we know the problems with the regular advertising and media. What are the kind of challenges that you face having these algorithms and everything in place?
So often the challenges with being over dependent on algorithms is that, I mean, the machine is only as good as the person who's coded it, right? So if the person who's coded, and the coder will be able to code an algorithm that is good basis the data he has. Now let's say that the data you have itself is misleading and the person who's coding has not asked the right questions, then your entire algorithm could not be performing very well. Which is why we have a practice actually in our team that every 2 weeks we'll actually relook at our algorithms, see if they're actually making logical sense before anything else. And then we ask the right questions, that's the key of everything. And then we sort of reevaluate. Any other questions, guys? You guys can always reach out to me, by the way. You can talk to your dean or connect with Dr. Saryar and I'll be happy to interact with you.
What does your day look like? I mean, you create algorithms or what is it that you work
So I actually don't work with creating advertisements. What my team really focuses on is, one is of course we have the tools and the text, but we're really there to solve brand challenges, right? Things that the marketing and media teams can't actually solve. So a lot of my day actually goes in either at clients' offices, trying to understand whether they should actually run a market mix model or what is their problem really and how best I can solve it. So a lot of my day goes into that. And I make it a habit. So I start my day at about 6 in the morning. I'll go for a run on Marine Drive. I'll come back and read a bunch of newspapers and read a bunch of articles. Then I'm at work, and then this is what I do at work.
What does the future of using data in media look like? Like, where is this heading towards? Like, right now we're showing ads, we're assessing, we're analyzing, but where is this industry? Like, what could possibly also take place beyond this?
So I think things that are really changing the way media and advertising works really is technologies like blockchain. And you often have questions on is my ad actually going to the right audience? So for example, you guys would have read that Facebook and Google have actually received a lot of flack because they were serving ads on terrorist sites, right? Or they're serving ads for people to sign up and join terrorist organizations. So the future of media actually lies in, one is making sure that these sort of challenges, these sort of problems don't have. But there's very little that people who don't understand coding can actually solve with. So to tackle that part of it, one is you have to constantly keep upskilling yourself, because if you don't, it's survival of the fittest, right? And if you don't adapt, then you are going to perish. But like I said, right, the people who I feel are always going to be there are the people who ask the right questions. And that holds true for economics or any other thing, right? If you ask the right questions, then you get the right answers and you solve the right challenges. Right question?
So, hi, I'm sure you use your knowledge in economics in your field right now, but being an economics graduate, what was that extra effort or what was that you needed to do to shift towards the analytics field?
So one thing I thought, I actually wish we had learned it in college, but one thing I wasn't exposed to actually in college is tools like R that would have actually made me process things at scale, and those are things that I sort of picked up on the job. But as an economist rather, the right skills that you already have, I'm sure that you're often taught in your discipline is to ask the right questions.
What are the skill sets which you would suggest we should have to enter into this field right now?
So of course you should, if you really want to look at a career in advertising, you got to identify and ask yourself, what is that part of advertising that is actually going to last out? And often people will say digital or data, but I think it's also creative. So you got to identify actually what you're really good at. And the people who, let me answer answer your question this way. Who was the first person who went on moon?
Sorry?
Who was the first person who went on the moon? Second person?
Buzz Aldrin.
Third person? Irrelevant, right? So, why do a lot of people remember Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin? It's because they believe that they were the best at what they were doing. So one thing before you actually settle in any interview or enter any profession is you got to find out what your niche is, what you're good at, and what you truly believe you're good at. And once you have that skill, coupled of course with a little bit of domain knowledge through your reading and just your inquisitive mind, I think that is something that any recruiter looks for.
We are talking about advertising, so how would you assess brand loyalty through these kind of organizations?
So for me, so let's say that brand loyalty is a person who will come to me and is loyal to my brand, and repeat purchase is one thing. So let's say that because we're looking at ML at scale, we are looking at a lot of cookies, and each person, each interaction is actually tagged to a particular cookie. And if I'm suddenly seeing that person coming back to my site a lot of times, that for me is loyalty. And what the way your algorithms can actually work is that it actually, remember that knockoff simulation that I told you about, right? It looks at every journey to identify what are the traits of people who are likely to be loyal to your brand in that case. And then that's what the application of ML is there. And then you have the test that we built on Facebook that sort of tell you that these are the interests of people who might be loyal to your brand. So I can look at Nike's page and analyze what are the common interest themes that come out from there. I can make my creative more oriented to that. I can make my website a little more custom made to that.
How difficult is it for new companies to actually put their ads out there? For example, if I'm looking for like shoes or something, and the simulation shows me an ad of Nike, but if there's a new company or like some new startup that's also producing shoes, but their ad would not be on like ads out there as probably Nike. So how difficult is it for new companies to?
So that question is actually related to the third question, wherein she said that what is it that a candidate who's actually entering into a vast ocean should actually have? So my answer to her would still be valid to you in terms of you need to actually find your niche. And if you're really good at what you're saying you're good at, people will realize it. So let's say that you're a new shoe company. And so ASICs actually existed quite before Nike did, right? And you know that the guys upon Nike also started as resellers for ASICs. They could have well decided to not start off Nike. But what they did when they founded Nike was that they actually changed the way the shoe felt. So for example, Bill Gorman actually was sitting with his wife one day and they were having waffles. And he thought, what if I had a design of a waffle as the sole of my shoe? And he figured that that was his USP and that was his niche, and that's how he started getting more people by saying that just by adding that waffle iron and making that grip a little more better for athletes, that's what Nike then started marketing themselves at. So you got to find what you're good at. You got to have this communication to be in line with highlighting your strengths, and that's how you should start. And it's very easy to perish if you don't understand what you're really good at. So for example, if Nike was into software and started competing with Google, they would have surely failed.
There's a whole lot of debate about name neutrality.
Right.
There's no name neutrality right now. In say, if the big giants dominate the net, do you think that there is a threat to advertising agencies like what he said, like the new entrant will have some problems and all?
So I'm actually for paying for premiumized content, and I'm actually for Hotstar and YouTube because I believe that if your content is good, you are always going to have people who will always come on it and will always be on it, irrespective. But if your content is bad, then automatically the market is actually the biggest signal for anyone. So I'm not exactly against the whole concept of paying for content. So I don't see that as a threat per se. I mean, I see it as something that is actually inspiring people to be better at what they are. It's just like, I mean, it's like saying that is Ola and Uber a threat for local cab drivers? But what the entrance of Ola and Uber actually did is that it made local taxis not just be the Fiat cars, but to be the good Santros and a little bit better design and better maintained and stuff like that, right? So that's my take on that. Was this talk more in sync with what I had in mind or feedback from me?
Does somebody want to say thank you?
Any more questions? Then thank you so much for your talk.